With Ubisoft burning down their company, the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise looks tenuous. So let's look back. Assassin's Creed has been one of the biggest gaming series around for almost 20 years, but there's a lot to it. From the side games, to a movie I slept through, to a webtoon I read for 3 years, and of course the main games. There are currently 14 of these fuckers, so we got plenty to dive into. I myself got interested in this series during the 2020 pandemic, when people were going crazy about toilet paper or government drones or something, I don't know, it was kind of a haze. I, meanwhile, saw the release of Assassin's Creed Valhalla and heard the consequent bitching and moaning from longtime fans about how this wasn't true to the original games, and thought, let's find out if they're right. Thus, started my long trek into the AC franchise, starting with Assassin's Creed 1. Where it all began. This game came out in 2007, so if you're getting into AC in the modern era, you're gonna notice. Most people have played games from this time period, so it might not be too jarring to pick this up, but if you go from the newer games to this, it can be quite a shock, as I've heard. However, I came into the AC games clean and fresh, so this was my first, and I have to say, this is a good starting point. The story builds up in a nice way, the mechanics are interesting to learn, and because this is the first game they released, all the complexity and depth is kept within this game, and not with more backstory you don't know. That being said, there are some less fortunate choices. Why does water kill you? Was swimming invented in 1496? Where is Thomas swimming? I need to have a word with him. Swimming aside, the game can be kinda clunky in its fighting and targeting mechanics. Multiple times when you aren't fully aligned with who you're fighting and there are multiple targets, Altair will just do a spin and get someone else than intended. This can be frustrating and lead to unwanted death. Or well, it would if the parry mechanic wasn't the most broken thing since the capitalist state. You can, and I definitely did, just take any fight by holding down parry, waiting for your opponents to attack, and then just attacking them when they bounce off of you. It feels great if you want to be an annoying little shit and take on fights you should absolutely not be winning, and I definitely enjoyed that. However, I don't think that was the intended use case for this dynamic. I wonder if they'll do something about that in later games. Another probably unwittingly OP mechanic or weapon or what have you is the throwing knives. Why do they insta-kill anyone when hit? I don't know, why don't you ask the NPCs patrolling the rooftops? Oh wait, you can't, I killed them with the 5 insta-death blades. It is ridiculously fun to insta-kill people from a haystack from about 30 meters away. Once again, don't think this was intended, but oh boy is it fucking fun. Holy shit, you are absolutely overpowered in this game, in the best way possible. If you want the challenge, do not play this game. Even on the highest difficulties, I don't think the game is that difficult when using the methods I've described, one of which is fundamental to the combat. So it's not a challenging game, but if you ever wanted to feel what it would probably feel like to be a master assassin that is forced to do tasks that are probably underneath his skill level, then this game is perfect, which makes the story work so great. Altair has to unlock these weapons again, but the second you get your hands on them and figure out how they work, they're suddenly so much more dangerous. It's insane. This brings us nicely into the story aspect of the game. Obviously, this is our first foray into the wonderful world of the Brotherhood and the Templar Order. This ancient war feels perfectly situated in the time period chosen for this game, being the Crusades. The Templars tend to use Christian iconography with the cross, so having the first assassin be Altair, someone from Israel who would be on the receiving end of this invasion by the Christians, is a good way to situate him on the other side of the conflict naturally, without even going into the actual Brotherhood versus Templar Order war, which of course we do anyway. But I wanted to mention this to illustrate something that most people already know about the Assassin's Creed games, which is that it takes the historical setting of the games very seriously. You know, if you ignore the magical artifacts, ancient conspiracies, and flags everywhere, seriously, did someone let a vexillologist loose? Where are these guys coming from? But for real, gathering collectibles is basically the only thing you can do aside from the main missions. I'm okay with that, but I'm here for the main story and trying to find out what this game wants to do. But if you want to sink your teeth into a game and spend a weekend playing it, this isn't the one. I do think that's one of its strengths, ironically enough. The game can be completed in 15 hours, but I swear I did it in 12. This game is short and sweet, especially compared to the later entries. If you have a free day, you can go start and finish the game, and I think that's awesome. That's definitely something we're missing nowadays. Assassin's Creed has become renowned for its historical accuracy in the category of buildings and layouts, being faithful to the real life, and it's a level of detail that needs to be appreciated. So I wanted to take the time for it here. However, we will talk about it more in a later video on a different game. The period of the Crusades, at least for me, is a bit too far back for me to be really familiar with the era and its goings-on, and I think that's probably true for most people who aren't really into history. But that is something that this game also does well. It honestly got me kinda interested in learning more about this time period. When researching for this video, I went down a little bit of a Wikipedia rabbit hole about some of the locations and people that are in the game. and was honestly really fun and interesting, which is really impressive, especially for a game that, as far as I know, doesn't intentionally have any educational purposes. It all stems from merely showing the world at the time through a fun and interactive medium, which is amazing. The story for this game is rather simple. You play as Altair, the disgraced master assassin who has to work his way back up the ranks. To redeem himself, he needs to assassinate, big shocker, 10 people that the mentor of the Brotherhood, the big cheese in charge, Al-Mualim, has ordered. Probably mispronounced that. In the game, they pronounce it as Al-Mualim, but there are characters who refer to him as Al-Mualim, so I'm gonna fuck this up, apologies. These people are Templars who conspire together to archaeology/grave rob an ancient artifact called the Apple of Eden. And yeah, that tracks for an organization using the cross as their main symbol. However, we get to see Altair fuck up this mission because he and some others are also sent to retrieve the artifact at the start of the game, where one of the guys dies and Altair barely escapes with the artifact in spite of his own arrogance. So till this point, the story feels pretty standard, right? The arrogant young hotshot gets taken down a peg and needs to learn humility and work his way back up to gain the approval of his mentor character, see what I did there, and become the bestest boy in the conspiracy army. But this is where we get to probably the best part of these games, the ending. So if at this point you're interested in the story and want to experience it firsthand, go do that now. I know the game is 20 years old, but still, these games are awesome and the story experience might be my favorite part. So don't get spoiled if you want to play it for yourself. Not because I'm glad this game is over, but because the ending is always bonkers. So when Altair manages to get the kill on the Grand Master of the Templar Order, yes, that's what they call him. No, I'm not commenting on that. It says enough on its own. With an assist from God, Ask Richard Lionheart, the Grand Master guy reveals that Al-Mualim, the mentor of the Assassin Brotherhood, is actually a Templar and he tried to help them get the artifact. And they did, because we thought we gave the apple to the Brotherhood, but instead now we know we gave it to the new Grand Master of the Templars, except that he also betrayed the Templars, so now we got a crazy old fool with an insanely powerful artifact. A slight speed bump in the whole free the people, save the world thing the Brotherhood have going on. The crazy stuff is yet to come. When Altair rushes back, the entire village is mind controlled by Al-Mualim by use of the Apple of Eden, and Altair needs to fight his way through to his mentor to stop him. And y'all, this fucking fight is insane. Al-Mualim pulls out all these crazy moves during the fight, from the Shadow Clone Jutsu to sending ghosts at Altair. This fight is wild, and the ideological conflict at the center of this is just as interesting. Between the phases of the fight, Al-Mualim will hold Altair in place and do the classic villain monologue. Altair gets some good lines in it as well, but it comes down to the main difference between Templars and the Brotherhood. The question of free will and the betterment of society and the world at large. The Templars want order and to stop war. On the surface, a noble goal. Their methods, however, are less than. They want to use the pieces of Eden to mind control the people of Earth to stop fighting. This also handily places them in control of the whole world, whereas the Brotherhood is all about freedom. They want to protect the freedom of the people, which is amazing because Ubisoft actually isn't American. That aside, the freedom to choose, even if it is a bad decision, is what the assassins fight for, which is interesting because they aren't necessarily fighting for a better world, just for the world to be allowed to choose, which adds some depth to these characters and removes them from classic Paragon status because they make decisions that might end up killing more people than if they had let Templars run things. Obviously, the way the Templars go about things is wrong, but you can't say it has no merit. One look at the current political landscape would make most anyone question that option, if only for a moment. The way the story and these sides are positioned, however, does put the assassins squarely in the right and the Templars in the wrong. So whilst we might be able to talk about the merit of either side and the shades of grey, in reality, the game does portray things as black and white, which I think is fine. You don't always need to be able to sympathize with a villain, or a villain can make good points but still be utterly deranged, like Al-Mualim here, especially for what turned out to be the first entry in a long series. Shades of grey develop over time when lines blur. What I've yet to mention is the extra layer the game adds to this, which most of y'all have probably been waiting for. Desmond Miles. Who is he? Oh, he is just the real protagonist of the story that I haven't mentioned up until this point. He has been captured by a company known as Abstergo, a company that makes video games, by the way, to delve into his ancestors' memory through a machine called the Animus. So all the events of Altair's life that we see are through the Animus. Abstergo wants this so they can find a map that Altair had with all the pieces of Eden scattered around the world on it. The big reveal being that Ubisoft's offer self-insert company is actually evil, and the modern moniker for the Templar Order. When they get the map, they go to kill Desmond, but the assistant that I haven't mentioned before, Lucy, is revealed to be a modern-day assassin and tries to help Desmond escape. Got all that? No? Good. Because that's how fast this stuff happens in the game. When we hit the end game of Assassin's Creed 1, everything goes at 1,000 miles per hour, and there's no time to breathe. You just gotta go through it and enjoy the ride because it won't stop for you. After it's all over, you're left sitting there, leaning back in your chair like you've just been slapped in the face for asking McDonald's to stop funding war crimes. It's nuts! And especially now, when you are blessed to be anywhere in the timeline past 2007, you can just go on to the next one immediately. That is amazing. They'll want to immediately jump into the next game in the series. Most big name games I know don't have that feeling, mostly because they don't have sequels until the sun dies out, but also because the endings to those games tend to find themselves in the space of, man, that wrapped itself up really nicely. AC doesn't do that. It always leaves you with more questions at the end of a game than answers, which makes the transition into the next game even better. All in all, I think AC1 is a fantastic starting point. Some of the mechanics might be clunky and the graphics don't hold up if you have developed a frontal lobe, but the heart of this game is still as functional and fun as the day it released. There's a core idea here so simple that the design and production team clearly had a lot of fun building around. The different cities you can visit are big and sprawling and show, as I mentioned before, a period of history in a bit more depth than you might be familiar with. You get to play around in history. And that idea is awesome. Obviously, they future-proof the idea with the Animus and the modern-day storyline, and that's great because more games spawn from it. But if this game didn't sell and we were left on that cliffhanger with just this game to judge the series by, I'm willing to bet this would still become a cult classic. Easy to say with hindsight, I know, but this core idea of having fun with history is something the team at Abstergo, Ubisoft, clearly had a lot of care for. And that makes for a good game, man. It's also just fascinating to come play this game after the fact and see where it all began. You can see so many seeds and ideas that would break out in later games. It seems fitting that this game allows you to have fun with history, now occupies a big spot in gaming history as well, and that you can still come back to and learn from both the ideas, good and bad, of what this game became in the period after. Much like real history. So let's place this game in history where it deserves to be. This is a game that deserves to be remembered. That's where I'll leave it for this video. I'm planning on doing the other Assassin's Creed games in order. When we get a bit further along, we can start actually ranking these games. But here at the start, let's just appreciate what this game does and has influenced since. And remember, those who don't know their history end up running major governments.